our lives, it's in our world, it's all around us, okay? And what sin is it's basically turning our backs on God, okay? When we were created, God wanted us to be in this perfect relationship with Him. He created us so that we were facing Him, that if this is God and this is us, He created us so that we were in this like perfect harmony with Him. And the first humans He created were Adam and Eve. And so Adam and Eve had this constant communication, this constant love with God. And Adam and Eve lived in the Garden of Eden, and they lived in this beautiful place that God supplied for them. And there was only one rule, and the one rule is that they couldn't eat from this one tree. Okay, well, if you guys know, I mean, temptation is huge, right? If somebody told you, you can do everything you want except for this one thing, you're really going to want to do that one thing. And Adam and Eve were kind of tempted, and they ended up eating from that one tree. And what that does, it was a sin, all right? It went against God. It said, hey, God, we don't really trust you, all right? And so what that happened, there's two things that happened because of that, okay? First of all, Adam and Eve turned their backs against God. Okay, they said, God, something's not right here, right? And that I just don't trust you enough, and so I'm turning my back against you. Okay, the second thing that happened there is when sin entered the world, is not only did that person turn their back against God, but it also separated them from God. Okay? All right, so we are now, okay, and this actually applies to us, right? Sin is in our world. We are separated from God. Okay, we sin all the time. I don't care if you go to church all the time or if you've never gone to church. I don't care if you've read every single page of the Bible or if you've never even opened the Bible. I don't care if you're a good person or a bad person. Whoever you are, you sin. You turn your back on God. We're human, all right? We all do it. And so since we all turn our back on God, we're eternally separated from our Creator. There is nothing that we can do right now to get to God. Nothing that we can do. And so that's kind of the bad news that Ben told us last time. Right? When we sin, we're kind of like, hey God, F you. Right? And we all do it. And so it's really sad and it's really crappy news that we are separated from God. So, now I can tell you guys the good news. And here's the good news. Ben shared a verse last time, and it's Romans 6:23, and it says, for the wages of sin is death. Right? And so we are separated, right? When we die, it's basically complete separation from God. Right? That's like the worst thing we can imagine. So here's the good news. God over here is so sad that we're not in that constant communication. Right? And so He does the unspeakable. And He sends His Son to earth to be man, and that is Jesus. And I'm sure you guys have all heard Jesus before. Some of you know who Jesus is, some of you don't know who Jesus is. But Jesus is basically God sending His Son, sending who He loves so much to earth because He wants that relationship, right, with us, over here with our backs turned, right? Even though, we disappoint, and we sin every day, God still wants that relationship with us. So what happened is Jesus came and we learned so much. We learned how to love others. We learned how to love God. Jesus, we've been talking about Him in club these past few weeks. All these stories about what Jesus has done. He set this awesome example. But Jesus really came to earth for one reason and one reason only. He came to earth to bridge this separation. Right? So here we are, totally separated. And to bridge this separation, Jesus had to die for us. Now, Jesus didn't die for all mankind. He died for me. He died for Ben, right? He died for Katie. He died for Chandler. Okay? He died for Eric. He died for Lexi. He died for each one of us. Now, I know a lot of you know, you picture that in your mind of how Jesus died. Some of you might not know. Jesus died on the cross. It was a crucifixion. And in those days, it was the worst death penalty that you can imagine. The electric chair would have nothing on this. And Jesus, first of all, He was brutally beaten, broken bones, all right? These whips that had these glass shards on it, they would whip His back and it would tear the skin off. Right, so He's brutally beaten. And then they go and He lays down, and they spread out His hands, and they nail through His hands and through His feet. And then they raise this cross up, so all of your weight is on these nails, or you're just hanging there on these nails. And what happens when you're hanging there is you can't breathe. So in order to breathe, you actually have to put all of your weight on your hands, and you have to lift yourself up to take in a breath, and then you fall back down. And then you do it again, you lift yourself up, and then you fall back down. And basically, the end death after a few hours on that cross is you die of suffocation. And Jesus did this willingly. He did this because he knew we had to bridge the gap between us and God. So, Jesus was on the cross. He knew that's why he came here. He was willing to do it because he loved us so much. And so then what happened, the last words that Jesus said is, "It is finished." And a lot of people think that's when Jesus is talking about his life. And it's not his life he's talking about. What he's talking about is it is finished. The gap between us and God is gone now. So now we're back with God. He bridged that gap. Right? So this is like a huge love story. This is awesome news. Okay, Romans 6:23 was all who fall short of the glory, all who fall short will receive death. But Christ is the answer. Okay, so Christ has now bridged this gap between us. Okay, so here we are right now. This is really good news. Now we're back with God. Okay, but our chair is still turned. So this is where God kind of gives us our own decision. And this is a decision that each one of you guys have. Right? We all sin. We're all going to be sinners. All right? We can't help it. We're human. We sin all the time, every day. Okay? But what you have, what decision you have is if you want to turn that chair back around. Okay? And when you turn your chair back around, it doesn't mean that you are going to be perfect. It doesn't mean that you're never going to make a mistake. What that means is that you want to have a relationship with God. I've made that decision. Ben has made that decision. Jeff has made that decision. Colleen has made that decision, and so has Jordan. All right? And we feel that this is one of the biggest and best decisions that you can ever make in your entire life. Is to turn that chair around and say, yes, I want a relationship. And so that's really what Young Life is all about. Yes, we want you guys to come and have fun and play games and laugh so much, but we also want you guys to know that we love Jesus, and we want you guys to love Jesus too. Now, whether you decide to turn your chair around, that is totally your decision. And if you don't, if you're like, hey, I'm just not ready for that yet, that's okay. We still want you to come to Young Life. We still want you to laugh and play games and have fun, and we're still going to love you. All right? And the awesome thing is that God still loves you too, regardless of if you want to turn that chair or not. He still loves you. But if you do decide that you want to turn that chair, right, we encourage you to come and talk to one of us about it, because it is the best news that we could ever hear. And you guys are going to hear more about this if you guys go to camp this summer. It's super awesome. But this is really the best news. Ben had to tell you the sucky news last week of how we were separated, but there is good news, all right? Christ brought us back together, and we have that decision to be in a relationship with God. So I challenge you guys tonight, as you're brushing your teeth and putting your pajamas on and going to bed and getting ready for awesome Monday, I challenge you to think, is my chair turned, and do I want my chair to be turned? All right, so you guys would pray with me, and then we'll be out of here.